Welcome to Adobe Illustrator CC, Introduction to Creating Shapes. In this tutorial we're going to figure out how to create shapes. So in the Tools palette there is most likely the rectangle tool, the rectangle shape visible, but perhaps use some other tool underneath and that might be visible. Basically to access those other tools, basically you hold the mouse on this tool and you'll see all the other shapes underneath. Now any tool that has a little arrow towards the bottom right corner, you basically have hidden tools underneath. So if you hover over it and then hold down the mouse, you can move over to the end and, while holding the mouse down, and click on this tear out bar. Once you do that, you essentially release and you have the tools available. You can then close it out again and the tools are still over here. So I'm going to tear this out and hover it over just so it's a little easier to access. So we're going to go over all these different shapes in Illustrator. The first one is the rectangle tool, and each of them, as you hover over them, they'll tell you if they have a hotkey. So the rectangle tool has a hotkey of M, and the way it works, pretty much you drag out and you get a marquee selection of a rectangle. So I can drag up or down, basically get like an XY action happen. Now right now it is a white basic rectangle. So if I come over here to the side and expand my essentials palette, I can click in here and choose a color for the fill inside, and basically I can draw it whatever kind of shape rectangle I want, and then I can, as I drawing out, I can switch to a different color. I can also select that other shape and pick a different color just by using a little eye drop tool there. So that's pretty much rectangles. Let's go ahead and delete those. Let's see, the next one is the rounded rectangle. So as you drag out, basically what you can do is you can hit the up arrow and that will round off each corner more, or you can hit the down arrow to basically square it off. Alright, now once I release this, there's little objects in each of these corners here, so I can still interactively modify that roundness, so even after I create it, which is pretty cool. And you can basically grab a corner and rescale however you want. Now as you're drawing out these shapes, any of these shapes, if you want to maintain proportions, you can hold the shift key and that will maintain an exact square essentially for this. For the standard rectangle, it'll be an exact square. And for the next one, which is ellipse tool, if you hold shift, you basically get a circle. If you hold shift and alt or option on the Mac, it basically draws out from the center of the object. So if I know a center of another shape and hold shift and option, it allows me to very easily draw it from there, and then I could again change color. So the ellipse tool basically draws out ellipses. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and use the hotkeys Control A or Command A on a Mac to select all and then hit the delete key. I'm going to now move on to the Polygon tool. As we draw out, you get the polygon. With all these shapes, as you're drawing out, you can hold the space bar as you're drawing and reposition. So I'm going to reposition it slightly, and there you go. Now as I'm drawing it out, if I want more or less polygon edges, basically as I hit the up arrow, I get more, and if I hit the down arrow, I get less, and that's while I am drawing out. I can go down all the way to a triangle, which is kind of cool. With the star tool, it's pretty much the same. As I draw it out, I can hit the up arrow and it would basically get more star tips, and if I hit the down arrow, I get less, and again go down to a triangle. Now as I'm drawing out the star, I can also hold down the control key or the command key on the Mac and drag out and basically get these sharper edge points on the star. So I can do that, which is kind of cool. And if I hold down the control or command key and go the opposite direction, meaning I draw towards the star, I'll essentially kind of round off the points, and you'll see here that now as I draw it out, it's got a little bit, stumpier kind of points here, especially when I swap out the color. The last shape isn't really a shape, it's the flare tool, and a lot of people are dazzled by it, but basically Yeah, it's pretty useless. You just click and drag and you get these weird flares. They're not really that great to play around with, to be honest. So that's pretty much it for the shape tools. Again, each of them you can have some individual properties here and there. With the polygon and the star tool, you can adjust with the arrows to add or subtract more points. All the others, if you hold shift, you basically maintain a perfect square. And as you're drawing it out, if you hold spacebar, you can reposition as you're drawing, which is very handy. And then if you hold shift and alt or shift and option on Mac and spacebar, you can reposition and it draws out it directly from the center. That's it for discovering shapes in Illustrator CC. See you soon.